welcome to the very first episode of Black Belt Theology, episode 1. So, I'm going to discuss today on why I decided to go with Black Belt Theology, create another YouTube channel. If you follow me on my other YouTube channel, which is Bible Answers Unfiltered, we've grown that channel to almost 60,000 subscribers, and I decided, that I wanted to go a different direction. I'm going to keep that channel. It's going to be active. We're going to put more stuff on there and give updates, but I wanted to go a different direction in the fact of how believers, Christians, new believers, and even seasonal believers can grow in the faith, grow in their walk with Jesus, and kind of get the right stepping stones on how to do so. I came up with Black Belt Theology because, I grew up in the martial arts. Both my parents were martial arts in their teens. My mother was the first lightweight women's world champion at the age of 16. She was only in high school. She made the newspapers and the local news and all that. My dad was, of course, a martial artist since he was in his teens. Training with great, martial artists. Growing up in the era of Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee and so many different ones. He was around a lot of these guys, Bang the Jet, a lot of these fighters. He was grounded in the art of Lima Lama with the founder himself, Tino Tuasega, which is an American Polynesian martial arts system. So I grew up in all that. My father was the first to have a local martial art TV show called World of Martial Arts and Body Motions, where he would bring on these guests. He brought on Ed Parker, Jimmy H. Wu, Tino Tuolasega, Kempo, Ed Parker, Kempo Master with Larry Tatum. So I grew up around this. At the age of 6, I started training in martial arts at a young age, just kind of, learning the punching and kicking and stuff and growing in that martial art foundation. I grew up in a home of Christianity where, my parents are both Christians. We went to church and, I grew up in the faith. Now, just like martial arts, there's a foundation, fundamentals of the belief in our faith, and that's what I kind of grew into and developed on that level, studying the Bible and so forth. There was a point where I came to that, desire to study more. So I kind of equate that, looking at the martial arts and looking at my faith, there's a lot of similarities on how we grow in it. In the martial arts, we start with the basic foundation principles of punching and kicking, basic blocks. In our faith, we have our essentials, what we believe in, what we know to be true with the Word of God, with the nature of God, the nature of the Messiah, the virgin birth, the resurrection, all these essentials that we all hold as. And so I equate the martial arts with, the foundation essentials that we just talked about, basically saying that, you have a basic foundation, punching, kicking, blocking, and then you have, of course, martial arts where you have the faith, where you have your essentials of what we just mentioned. So we bring that together because there's the same kind of growing process. We grow in our punching, kicking by practicing every day for hours in martial arts. We do this all the time. And then when it comes to our faith, we study and read the Word every day. We study the Word, we read the Word, we study it. And we're going to talk about those things on this channel on the tools you'll need to grow in the faith, just like the tools you'll need to grow in the martial arts. Now, just like in martial arts, you have different fighting styles. You have karate and kung fu, different version of kung fu. You have, taekwondo, and you have throwing arts like judo and jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So you have different martial arts, tai chi, aikido. And you have all these different martial arts, as well as you have different denominations in the Christian faith. You have Baptists and Lutherans, Episcopalians, you have Roman Catholics, and there's always, of course, even just like the martial arts and denominations, there's always, disagreements, and there's fighting going on with theology. So I decided to kind of bring that in. And you also have outside the Christian faith, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Unitarianism, Oneness Pentecostals, and all these different branches that say they're Christians, but they have different theology. In martial arts, we can equate that with some of the other outside styles that we really don't consider martial arts. I don't consider Tai Chi a martial art, a self-defense method. It's great for what it's used for, just for practicing and movement, but it's not a martial art. I don't consider the purest forms of, Aikido a martial art. You put that in a fighting combat situation with other fighters, then you have problems. You put it against a boxer. Now, boxing is for me, a form of self-defense. It's a sport, but it's also self-defense and a martial art in its own. So just like in martial arts, you get belts. And I equate that to our faith, how we grow in our faith, the level of growth. Now, for me, if you are a high school graduate and that's all you are, and you read your Bible and you follow the Lord, walk in the Lord, and you study, then that's in a similar fashion of getting to the martial arts as a white belt. But you're a long-term white belt. You just want to study, read the Word, apply it in your life, do all these things. You're not out there trying to debate and argue. So that's in martial arts, we look at that as just being a white belt where it's for your own benefit. You learn the martial arts, you practice at home, you keep yourself healthy and fit and trained, but you're not out there trying to go into fights and challenging people or testing your fighting style. Well, as a white belt in the martial arts, in the faith, they're kind of the same. As you grow in we say the college level, your associate's degree, your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, and your PhD, that's kind of growing in the martial arts as your white belts. And I'll equate it to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you have the 5 belts. You have your white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and black belt. So as you grow within those belts and you spend time in there and you're challenging yourself and you're competing against others, you're growing in the faith, you're growing in the martial arts, you're growing in both. And so your belts, as you improve in your belts and so forth. So in academia, you get your associates, you get your bachelor's, you might get it in the Bible and religion, and you're growing from there. That's how we equate. Now, there are a lot of people, and I equate this to people who are just online. Like I basically call them Google scholars or Google black belts, where I'd say, like in black belt, someone says, I got a black belt. From where? On Google. I watched a lot of videos and I practice at home. Okay, so you're a Google black belt. You've never been tutored, trained, mentored. You don't have an instructor. You're just your own instructor. That's a Google black belt. That's a Google scholar. Someone who just goes online, searches what they want, finds that agrees with them, and just uses that and builds off of that. You're not a black belt in anything. You're a Google scholar. You're a Google black belt, and no one's going to take you seriously. When you post online, you can see the ones who are just that way. So with the martial arts and with theology, there's a lot of similarities. And we equate the both. So what I like to do is I like to challenge a lot of you out there. We might not agree on everything theologically, but I come from a very strong academic background, a very strong theological background. I spent the first 10 to 15 years in apologetics, defending my faith. I was out there at the Mormon temples, Jehovah's Witnesses, talking to them. I was out there. I actually had a local television show in my area in LA, the first Christian television apologetic show called Test All Things. And I still have copies of some of those. I had a Mormon elder on there. I had a former Roman Catholic on there, became Protestant. We would talk about the faith and the challenges of the faith. And with the Mormons and the elder there, we challenged him. So I had the very first local LA cable show called Test All Things. So I know what it's about to test my faith out there, be challenged with it. I've been in debates. Before the internet, before YouTube, I was out there debating in the churches, in the Mormon, the Mormon churches, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Kingdom Halls. I've had people over my home from those different faiths. I would go to apostolic faiths, challenge them on their oneness position, as well as modalism, Unitarianism. So even in the kingdom of the occults, I mean, with occults and occults, religion, and also with witchcraft, people who are in witchcraft and sorcery, I would challenge them as well. So I was on college campuses, giving lectures and speaking on the topics, different areas of apologetics. So I spent the first half in that area of apologetics, theology, and then the second half in academia, where I'm at today. So I'm finishing up a second master's in biblical exegesis through Colorado Christian University, which then I'll move on to another PhD, doctoral dissertation on the subject of the search for the language of the New Testament during the Second Temple period, where I get into in depth about that. And that's the level of academia, black belt, that I want a lot of people to strive to. They might not ever get there, but if they strive to get there, then that's important. The tools you're going to need. What tools do you need? If you can't afford to go to universities and colleges and all that, what do you do? There's great Bible softwares to get, Accordance, Logos. get involved in your church, talk to your pastor if he's someone you look up to and is very grounded in the Word. Get an elder there, someone else who's grounded in the Word, and get under them and let them guide you and teach you. You're going to grow on your own. The point of Black Belt Theology is to get you to eventually get to a point, which is usually what we call the middle point, brown belt. Right before black and just below brown, you're getting to that level that you start to think for yourself. You start to read outside sources that aren't always Christian books or Christian academic papers. You read non-Christian academic papers. It doesn't mean you're going to agree with them. I don't agree with every martial artist, but sometimes I take from certain styles and I say, I love the way they did this kick. I love the way they did this punch. I'm going to utilize it. Might change it up a little bit, make it fit my own, and then I'm going to go from there. So when you get to that point, you need to be able to think for yourself. Start to think for yourself. Start to, incorporate outside non-Christian books, academias. There's always a difference between Western Christian thinking and, of course, Eastern Christian or Eastern belief thinking. They don't really call themselves Christians, but if you run into a Messianic Jew, he's a believer in Jesus or Yeshua, as they say. That's the name given to him at birth by the messenger Gabriel. His name was Yeshua. Then yes, you can call him Yeshua, you can call him Jesus, but you got to learn the different way how they think because they're closer to the time. They're there at the place. They're in Israel. They come out of that academic circle where they're reading, rabbinic Jewish sources and writings and the way they thought during the Second Temple period, the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there is a different thinking between Western thought and Eastern thought. And so you got to learn to look at both views. Just like in martial arts, I encompass and look at all fighting styles. Though I have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is very hard to do. It's one of the hardest black belts to get. And I also have a 6th-degree black belt in the American Polynesian Institute of Lima Lama through my father. So, but I've also trained in Muay Thai and American kickboxing. I've trained in Kempo karate. I've trained in Aikido and Judo. So I know, and I've taken from that. I didn't become black belt, but I've taken my experience and incorporated it into their fighting system. And I took what I needed and so in martial arts, as I said, I competed a lot. I've won a number of different titles and trophies, MMA, King of the Cage, Gladiator Challenge competitions, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions, martial art tournament competitions, which you could all see at my online at my YouTube channel that I have, or you can just put El Garza Martial Arts and you'll see some of my past fights and all that. So I've taken my martial arts and I've tested myself in a way that most people don't. Like I said, I've competed underground where there were basically no rules and no gloves, no paddings, and different martial arts studios. So I've done that behind closed doors as well as, like I said, in the open arenas of King of the Cage, Gladiator Challenge, and then of course other martial art tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments, and all that. So I've tested myself, which is similar to, in your area of your faith, of your theology. You go out and you talk to other people, and they challenge you with questions, and you give them answers based on what you know to be true with the scriptures and historical areas and theology and all the different areas that we learn of how to defend our faith. So I've done it, and that's what I'm trying to get you to kind of engage yourself with the scriptures, and you'll hear me use terms in the martial arts as well, like I said. So we want you to engage in the scriptures, study the scriptures, learn the scriptures, learn the outside academic sources that support the scriptures, as well as challenging, people who challenge our faith. We want to read those and say, okay, well, how do we answer this? How do we defend against this? Martial arts, same way. How do I defend myself against this move and that move? And someone attacks me this way. How do I defend myself? Same principles. So that's where we're also get out from this channel, hopefully, and help you engage in that way. I didn't always, look to become a black belt in every style. So don't look to become a black belt in every form of thought. Find what you're passionate about within your own belief system. Christian and Christian theology, there's different branches of academia, different branches of research, different branches of study. You study the nature of God, study the different aspects of the Bible. There's textual criticism. And you're not always going to agree with everybody. I don't agree with a lot of scholars. There's a lot of non-Christian scholars like Bart Ehrman, but he was a Christian, he claims before, and now he's not. But his scholarly academia is solid and textual criticism, but I don't agree with his conclusions, and neither do a lot of believers. So his conclusions to us are completely off, and some of the things that he asserts are completely off, but his textual criticism skills and knowledge is sound to anybody who's in that field. Daniel Wallace and others who are in that field will tell you the same. Emmanuel Tobe, who's a textual scholar in the Hebrew Scriptures and the Septuagint, is a non-believer, but I use his books to study the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and so forth. So we can always learn from everybody, and then of course apply it as we do. Now we have a website, blackbelttheology.com, where we just started putting out T-shirts like this. We have mugs like you see here. We have the all-white mug. We also have baseball caps you see over here. It says Black Belt Theology. So if you're interested, we have more stuff coming out. You can go to the website, blackbelttheology.com. Purchase, donate. This is going to be a subscriber growing channel. So I'm going to be focusing on getting subscribers. This is going to be funded by you guys. Anything helps. You can donate $10, $5, $100. More than that, great. It's going to be funded and driven by the viewers, you. So we hope that you support this channel. I have other projects. I do have Bible Answers Unfiltered. I'm working on Hebrew New Testament manuscripts translation projects. So I'm going to focus on both. Come in and give you some knowledge here and give you some tools here to help you. I have a couple of new books out. I have a book called Unlocking the Word. This is the top 10 mistakes in Bible interpretation, where I deal with those top 10 mistakes. Some of them are basically taking verses out of context, ignoring historical and cultural context, over literal interpretations, ignoring different translations, confirmation bias, which you're going to find a lot of Christians in the faith, because even some that are academically sound still violate a lot of these basic mistakes. Those who are not academically trained or at a level of what we'd call a belt up from white to above, make a lot of these mistakes. Skipping difficult passages, neglecting to seek guidance, lacking of prayer and reflection, dismissing the Old Testament is a big one, and using the Bible as a weapon. So this book alone, I just put out at the end of 2023, is a great handbook for that. It's a tool that I think would help. I also just published Jesus is Lord, ? Where I deal with the different aspects of Jesus being Lord with a divine name, the Tetragrammaton, as well as Adonai, and of course Adoni. Which one is he in the New Testament, and how do we know? What is the evidence for him being, called by the divine name, or called Adonai, or the Lord Ha'adon, as well as Adoni? So this is great for those who want to defend the deity of the Messiah and who he was. This is a very heavy academic book. Part of the book in here on Psalm 110:1 was endorsed by Dr. Michael Brown, a very well-known Semitic scholar and apologist. So I put that part in there as well. And we go into other areas of the sacred name, the Nomina Sacra, which is, the abbreviations of the titles of the names of God given in the earliest Greek manuscripts that apply to Jesus. So we have a lot on our plate. Again, we need your support on all this. If you want to support this ministry and help it grow, like, subscribe, share, donate, purchase something. All proceeds, book proceeds, all donations go straight to this ministry and on my other ministries as well. So we use it all to grow this channel for you. So we're going to start giving you tools, I'll be reading from different parts of different areas of my book and talking about the nature of God. We're going to talk about the nature of the Messiah, the resurrection. How do we know these things are true? How can we trust in them? We're going to start from the basic foundation, just like if you're in the martial arts. I'm going to get you on the basics of punching and kicking and blocking, and we're going to build off of that, and we're going to develop and start learning. Just like in the martial arts, you have the basic foundation of the punching, kicks, and blocks. You have basically start learning forms and katas, we call them, techniques, and then we build off of those to put weapons in your hands. Now the weapons in Black Belt Theology would be more like learning the languages. You start learning a little bit of Hebrew, a little bit of Aramaic, a little bit of Greek, maybe even some Latin. Those are the weapons like in martial arts. So we use those as well, and we make comparisons. So you'll hear me making comparisons. Don't be surprised when I start comparing martial arts with the Bible, because that's what I'm going to be doing here. So I want to leave you with the word of thought. In the scriptures, we have in 2 Timothy 3 verses 16, all scripture is breathed by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be adequately equipped for every good work. And that's what our focus is going to be here, to help teach you these things through the word, and teach you these things so you can grow in your walk, in your studies and so forth. And I'll recommend different books to you. I'll recommend different sources to you. So it's not just my own. So you can actually go out there and learn as well on your own. But don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to express what you believe, to show what you believe. Even if you're not quite sure, that's where practice, like in the martial arts, practice time and study in the word. That's how it comes, and that's how you grow. You can't grow unless you study and practice the word, put it in application, learn the word, memorize the word, apply the word. Just like in martial arts, we do the same thing. We practice techniques, we train, we do exercises, we get our body fit so that when we do something, we're not going to get hurt. And we apply it in the real world. So if something does come our way, we're ready and equipped to handle ourselves. Martial arts and theology the same. That's why I call it Black Belt Theology. You can get this shirt online. Again, this is going to be a brand that we're going to try and grow. And again, it's all viewer supported. So listen, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but that's kind of where we're going to be at with this. We're going to take this to a different level, help you guys to grow in the spirit of the Lord, in the walk in the Lord, and of course, academically and educationally in the Lord as well. So get ready for this. It's going to be a fun time for everybody. I think it's going to be a good time for me. I'm going to put a lot of things together for you guys. But again, this is an introduction. So I want to thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Black Belt Theology. And if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them here. I try to answer everybody. You can email me. Go to the website, check it out. We have different pages about pages, merchandise. You can see things on there. We're going to be posting articles on there eventually. But this is for you guys. I want to appreciate your time. Again, this is going to be anything you can do to help support this channel would be to purchase something, donate, buy a book. It all goes to the ministry. So again, I want to thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Black Belt Theology. We'll see you soon, and God bless.